Hello internet, my name is Lave and this week I watched Kong, Skull Island, which is directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who's not only remaking King Kong, he's also got to continue the monster cinematic universe laid down by 2014's Godzilla. This latest incarnation of Kong is set in 1973 with the advent of satellites and satellite photography. A new island is discovered in the Pacific hidden amongst a storm, so a team of scientists and explorers and soldiers set off to investigate it, only to run into the mighty Kong. Now, I was really bummed when a couple of the American YouTubers' reviews came out and they weren't really that happy with it, so I really lowered my expectations for this and I was still disappointed. I think the biggest criticism they had was the lack of development for the human characters, and they're absolutely right. If they get any at all, it's reduced to one line or one sentence. For example, Brie Larson's character is a photographer and you're introduced to her in a dark room developing some pictures. The phone goes off, she picks it up, and the person on the other end of the phone says, "What I don't understand is, why are you giving up being a photographer for Life magazine and doing a mapping exercise?" I was so distracted at how bad that line was, I didn't even hear her response. She probably said, "Oh, because of the script, innit?" But what really baffles me is the volume of characters that all get the same treatment. For example, you've got John Goodman and Corey Hawkins, Sam Jackson, Toby Kebbell, Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, who I'll come back to in a minute, Shea, Whigham, Thomas Mann, Jason Mitchell, Tian, Jing. You've even got a nerdy expedition leader wimp type character times two. Seriously, there's two of them. Not to mention you've got a whole platoon of army soldiers. You've got the natives as well. I haven't even got on to John C. Reilly yet, who I swear is ad-libbing the entire film. Some of his jokes landed for me. The ones that did were the ones in the trailers. The others didn't. I mean, tonally, this film is all over the place, which does make me wonder how this ties into the 2014 Godzilla. It's completely different. It's more like the 1998 Godzilla. And speaking of the 2014 Godzilla, I don't know if it's because Gareth Edwards is much better at conveying size and scale, but the Godzilla in that is humongous, whereas King Kong isn't that big. He's big, but he's not as big as Godzilla. Godzilla would absolutely floor him. So how they're going to put a film with them together, I don't know. Going back to the performances before I move on, I want to talk about Tom Hiddleston's performance. If he is genuinely going for the James Bond role, I think he's ruined his chances after this film. I really can't see it. I thought he was badly miscast in this. In a few scenes, I genuinely thought it was a script test screening or something. It's so badly acted and there's no chemistry between him and Brie Larson's character. It's awful. There's a moment where she says to him, "I didn't know you were a mercenary," and then he says, "I didn't know you were a war photographer. You mewling quim. Oh look, Kong." In the interest of giving a balanced review, there are some positives. The soundtrack is good, but honestly, if you can't get a 70s war soundtrack right, then you're really doing something wrong. And I liked the 70s visual style and the cinematography that goes with that. Definitely going for an Apocalypse Now vibe, and the whole Vietnam War analogy I thought was good, but maybe not explored to its full potential, particularly with regards to one character who has seen a lot of war and goes on a vengeance type mission. I thought that was okay, and that's when the analogy is working at its best. And Kong himself and the other creatures are rendered really well. I really like the fact that Kong has that whole man in a suit type feel to him. He isn't a proper primate, if that makes sense. And there are some really good action set pieces, particularly with the choppers, which the trailers alluded to. There is a really good monster v monster smackdown, which was good as well, but in my opinion, it isn't any better than the V-Rex smackdown in Peter Jackson's King Kong. But I think this movie's biggest sin for me is the fact that I didn't really care about Kong. I think every other feature film adaptation, I cared about Kong. I cared about him in Peter Jackson's King Kong. I cared about him in the original. I even cared about him in the 70s Jeff Bridges version. Not so much in this. So that's my thoughts on Kong Skull Island, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. A part of me thinks that my expectations for this film were too high, particularly as it is based on a B movie, but then I was expecting something tonally in line with Godzilla, and it's completely different to that. I think if you are someone looking for just a creature feature where they smash the shit out of each other, There's a good 20-25 minutes that you're really going to love, but I think the other hour and a half of the film is going to be really quite boring for you. I've been trying to think of a good analogy for this film, and I think I've got one. This film does have an after credits scene, and I had to wait 10 minutes for all of the scrolling titles to finish to see an okay after credits scene, and that pretty much describes my experience of the film. You have to sit through all of these names and all of these people that you don't really care about to see something quite cool for 30 seconds. Anyway, thanks very much for watching my review of King Kong. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like and don't forget to share the lave.